This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, officially opened the first Eastern Caribbean's state-of-the-art cancer center, and it's also the work of a Bahamian physician. The move signals a number of medical breakthroughs and achievements for Bahamians and regional medicine. Clint Watson tonight tells us about the mandate of the new healthcare pavilion.
It's one of his final official duties as chairman of CARICOM. Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie officially opening the Medical Pavilion Antigua, a new 20,000 square feet medical complex and home to the Cancer Center Eastern Caribbean. The facility, the brainchild of Bahamian Dr. Conville Brown, has already installed state-of-the-art cancer treatment equipment by electrotechnology that will allow the facility to usher in a new and highest level of cancer care to the Eastern Caribbean states.
We will be able to link all of the OECS states, all 9 countries, so that if we saw a patient in Montserrat, when we come back here, their information was here long before we got back here. So it's all electronically connected, and electronic medical records, in other words. Yes, so that's what we'll have. And that's going to be good because we're going to have a hub and spoke setup wherein patients will come to Antigua for 2 things: radiation therapy, because we'll be the only center doing it, and they will come for complex chemotherapy. Otherwise, we will go out to the various states and help them to deliver chemotherapy at home, with the government itself purchasing the chemo so that they can keep their costs down as much as possible.
Dr. Brown called this move the pinnacle of his 25-year career as a cardiologist. Prime Minister Christie says a multi-million-dollar facility spearheaded by a Bahamian signals a new day for the Bahamas in administering international medicine and establishing facilities overseas. Dr. Brown explains what will take place at the facility.
We will offer 3 sets of services: cardiac, cancer, and imaging. We wanted to do things that were different from what's already available, because no sense going into someone's territory to compete with them. So the radiation therapy, nobody has it in the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. From the cardiac perspective, we're going to introduce the first interventional cardiology suite.
And with the critical information linkage, the Prime Minister is pleased as he prepares to implement national health insurance to the archipelago of islands. The Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Perry Gomez, also accompanying the Prime Minister, called it a red letter day as he sees healthcare shaping up throughout the entire region. And more than it just being Bahamian pride, the Prime Minister says it's significant in having a facility of this nature in the Eastern Caribbean, as it no doubt will save lives. Now the facility is already treating 4 patients, and we're told will officially be open to receive the public in about a week's time. In Antigua, Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
The Bahamas tonight joins its member states of the United Nations to observe International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking by hosting a special exhibition at the Mullet Marathon. Among those participating in the event was a former drug user who talked to Arla Dawn Davis about his personal fight.
Drugs for me was an escape. Drugs for me was a way to avoid confronting the emotional issues in my life.
That's former drug user Andre Chappelle giving a testimony about how substance abuse changed not only his life, but the lives of those who love him. Chappelle, who is now a married man, has been clean from substance abuse for the past 5 years and used the International Drug Day exhibition at the Mullet Marathon on Friday as an opportunity to encourage others to stay away from drugs.
When I started cocaine, it was a very flamboyant, it was a very attractive drug. The people that were in, the in crowd, the people with money, the people that were going out to the nice clubs. It started in apartments, in hotel rooms with air conditioning and wine and champagne and all these other things that were associated with the good life. And yet it turned out to be, the next thing you know, you crouched down in some bush somewhere, hiding behind an outhouse, doing drugs. And so it's very deceptive because, it distorts your perception of reality.
While Minister of State for National Security, Senator the Honorable Keith Bell, applauded Chappelle for his courage to share his story, he reassured the government's commitment to cracking down on drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking in this country.
Last year alone, when you talk about the police seizing in excess of 900 pounds of cocaine alone, that is very, very significant. And when you talk about the number of drugs that they are seizing on our streets, that they are intercepting out there at sea, both the police and defense force, we can see that if we were to give them increased resources, that is our boats, that is our vessels, that is our vehicles, that is our intelligence gathering capabilities and techniques, and the like, we know that we would get greater seizures, greater arrests, and it also applies to the confiscation of cash. As we've seen, more than $4 million was seized and put into our confiscated asset funds account last year. This year, they have seized in excess of $400,000 already.
Now, for those drug users looking for rehabilitation or a listening ear, Chappelle says they can join the more than 400 Bahamians within the People Helping People program. There are at least 6 centers across the capital. LaDon Davis, ZNS Network News.
Senators passed the 2015-2016 budget last night following 2 days of debate. Among those contributions to debate was Senator Robin Lyons, who criticized the previous administration for, quote, leaving the economy on a gurney, and then also blaming the recession for the country's fiscal state. She also noted that programs and promises that weren't fulfilled were due to the government underestimating the state of affairs.
Where we were in 2012 was in a mess, a hot mess, if I do say so myself. In the PLP's Charter for Governance, we spoke in work mode, what we will do as soon as we set foot in the door, how earnest we want to implement plans for the country. But we did this without a full appreciation for the extent of the damage, and that was the mistake of the government, not clearly assessing and understanding how poorly this country was managed.
The opposition business in the upper house, Senator the Honorable Carl Bethel, also contributed to the debate. He talked about the country's debt to GDP ratio.
In the annual report of the Central Bank of the Bahamas, it is emphatically stated by the central bank, but under the government of the day, the debt to GDP ratio has grown to an alarming 73.4% of gross domestic product.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.